Resraya wants to know, fuck, marry, kill, Prince Abu, Hungrybox, and Hacks Money.
I would marry Hungrybox, but I would be like kind of a very PC trophy wife to him because he's so rich and I'm so broke, and so I would just spend all of his money into shit he doesn't need, and then eventually I would divorce him so I could take half of his stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the SmashBros AMA, brought to you by The Daily Dot. I, of course, am always in your host, Ian J. Barker, the host with the most. I almost said the hostess with the mostest, and that would have been a very embarrassing way to start the show. Joining us tonight is a guest that plays a character that's received some criticism lately. Quite a bit of inflammatory comments made about Jigglypuff, his main, but he is willing to carry the torch for the pink cuddly Pokemon. Joining us, of course, from all the way from France is Victor Tekk. Victor, how are you this evening?
I'm great, thank you.
No problem, no problem. Welcome to the show. We've actually, for those of you at home who don't know, one little behind the scenes look, we don't actually just bring Victor in or bring our guest in right when the show starts. And so Victor and I have already covered most of the AMA before the show. It would appear we asked a lot of questions and covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So you may find yourself repeating yourself from our initial conversations.
I'm fine.
I hope that's okay. Well, folks, for those of you at home who aren't familiar with the format, every week we deliver a new Smash guest to the folks over the SmashBros subreddit. The folks over there, the moderators specifically, very graciously put up a Reddit thread for us, and you ask your favorite questions, upvote the ones you want to hear, and downvote the ones that you don't give a shit about, and we ask them live on the air every Thursday for your viewing pleasure. Now, it's 1 a.m., Victor, where you are, as I believe, as you said, and
Yes,
we've got some very entertaining questions for you. Are you up to the task?
Of course I am. You know I am, man. I'm ready for anything. Bring that up. Bring it up.
Perfect. Let's make it happen. All right, so let's kick things off with the top voted question from the thread. This one comes from Churbiri. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I'm very sorry, Chubiri, but welcome to the show. Chubiri wants to know, how do you feel about HBox's previous reluctance to help out other Jigglypuff players in developing the character? How was it trying to develop such a nebulous and confusing character with such little help, especially with your aggressive style?
All right, so of course I knew I was going to be asked about Hungrybox, and of course I thought about it for a while. So the story about Hungrybox is that, yeah, basically when he was on the rise, he started winning tournaments. He kind of always was in his, own little lair, and like some puffs were already discussing, like on Smashboards, especially on Skype. A long time ago, we were discussing stuff. He never got around to it, I guess. I don't feel any resentment for that. The story is that he invited us other puffs to discuss theory because he was having a hard time versus Armada and Neffen. That was the time where he lost to them. So he needed the other puffs' help, I guess. And that's why I decided to go with the not my thing way of answering his proposal.
So what I'm hearing from you is that he didn't approach you wanting to share like Tekk or Jigglypuff tips. He came to you because he needed help.
That's exactly how I saw it. And what really triggered me was the phrasing, actually. He said, "I'm willing to work with you." And my friend, I have to say, the French people are proud people, are very proud people. And you're not willing to work with us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm the kind of guy that really likes to train his own stuff, do his own thing. And yeah, I'm kind of childish like that. But, I'm confident in my way. So I have no hard feeling towards Hungrybox or anything, but yeah, I wasn't interested really in working with him.
As a competitor, as somebody who knows that your knowledge and your edge over your opponent is what gets you to the next round, is it really worth vilifying somebody for wanting to sort of forge their own path and maybe keep their weapons a secret in order to gain a competitive edge? Because people want to say, you should share everything you know. But as soon as you share everything you know, then your opponents know that. I mean, is that something we can really hold against players, not just Jigglypuff players, but players across Melee?
Absolutely not. I agree with you there. The thing is, like, yeah, he didn't want to share stuff with us back then, so I just followed his logic. Really, I just said no when it came icing. That's all. So I don't think I'm vilifying him for not sharing with us, but I don't want to be vilified for doing the same thing to him. That's all I'm saying. I'm just playing the game.
Trust me, if you don't find a reason to be mad at a particular Smash player, someone on the internet will find some reason to be mad at a particular Smash player. It's the magic of the internet.
Oh, of course.
Moving on to our next question. This one's a bit of a long one, so bear with me. This one comes from D Frogman. D Frogman wants to know, everyone in America can talk for ages about the style differences between NorCal and SoCal, but when it comes to Europe, we're pretty much like, I don't know, I guess Leffen and Armada are pretty good. What are the defining traits of each of the major European scenes, and how do you have to adjust your play against their respective players?
All right. So that's kind of a tricky question and a very complex one, to be honest, because it's Europe and there are a lot of differences among countries. But to try to be general, I'd just say that the European playstyle in general relies a lot more on baits and on reads than it does on the by the book plays and just zoning or just reactions basically. You can just see that by watching any European top player like Hamza or Triforce. Basically, they're just very baitful players, as opposed to American ones who are really, especially now that we're all esports and stuff. Everyone is really by the book and very precise and earnest to always do the same thing in every situation. But we Europeans love our gimmicks. Basically, we all the good European players found some kind of gimmick with his own character. Reaper especially, I think about him when I say that, and we just love to apply them to anyone we face. And we can't help it. So no matter how by the book we're gonna play, no matter how by the book we try to copy the American style, basically, we're always going to implement our gimmicks into it. And that I think is like the European signature,
So I mean, the idea being that you have a way of playing and you apply that in every situation, if I'm understanding you right, that sounds like a bit of a weakness. I mean, do you think that this is something that has sort of held Europe back, or do you think that that's one of the strengths of Europe, is that you've each sort of created your own unique way of approaching the game and a specific matchup in each player?
Well, I think the European scene as a whole is a few months or years behind the American scene. I mean, esports wise, and even like matchup knowledge wise and everything. But I think the way we're gonna evolve is that we're gonna implement all those teachings from those American pros and even from Armada and Leffen, like what they told us already. We're gonna implement this efficiency, this tendency to optimize stuff, but we're still, gonna implement our own stuff. That's really the core of it. So, my ultimate goal, actually, as a player, is to be able, to have the neutral game, a Hungry Box versus Fox, basically, to be as neat as it is in the neutral, but to still be able to go for crazy stuff that'll make people scream. And that's just, that's how I see it. That's my idea of Smash.
Is there any concern over in Europe that as you guys sort of emulate the models of successful American players or even successful European players, obviously there's more than a couple, are you ever worried that you're going to sort of lose that unique identity, that gimmicky style, as you say it, that while maybe not as successful as the American style is certainly more exciting and more fun to watch?
Not really. I think we'll adapt, but I think we will never forget our roots, because the European scene is still very, very grassroots in its tournament, in its community. And players like Hamza, Ghetto, Amada, very old players are still here to perpetuate the history of Europe, if you will. So I think the European style stems from the community itself. So as long as the community lives, there'll be the European specialty, if you will.
Well, let's hope those entertaining gimmicks and stuff never really go away. I know that I'm rooting for them. Coming up to our next question. This one comes from Firepuff12. Firepuff12 wants to know, do you think Mango's puff style could work in today's meta? And do you agree with people saying that your puff is a reincarnation of Mango Puff?
So I've actually had some words with Mango about this one. So what he told me and what I think is that Mango's puff style today is very, very, very hard to apply, especially in a sea full of foxes, full of very efficient and mindful foxes. So yeah, today Mango's puff style is really, really hard to apply. Not impossible, mind you, but really hard. And my follow-up would be about like the next part of the question. People saying that my puff is a recognition of Mango's puff. So what Mango himself said about that was that my puff was the closest thing to his. And I think that's the nicest possible thing he could have ever said about that. So I'm just gonna take that and be happy about it, you know? And so back to what I meant about my, Smash ideal is that I want to perpetuate this legacy, if you will, of crazy West style of very aggressive puff things, and still be able to win majors. So so this year, I'm absolutely working on my neutral game. That's all I care about from now on, because I think I've got my punish game is pretty much figured out from my perspective, at least. So all I'm thinking about is not getting hits, being evasive, being boring to play against, So then I can be cool to play against again.
So, well, what do you say to people who say that Jigglypuff is actually bad for melee? Because as you just by your own admission, good Puff is boring because it's defensive, because it's guarded, because Jigglypuff, especially against foxes, can't take a lot of hits before it's game over. So obviously that's the way you have to play in order to, as you said, win majors. What do you say to the critics that say that style is boring? Because I know that there's a lot of Street Fighter fans out there that actually love the crap out of it.
Well, I can't blame them. I absolutely can't blame them. I can't say that I was a fan of the Hungry Box versus Amada's Youngling sets back in the day. I can't say that I love them. Mm-hmm. They were very interesting, to be sure. But I kind of see Puff as the Zangief of Melee, where it's basically boring for 3/4 of a match, then it suddenly becomes exciting when there's some contact, Mm-hmm. So I think me as a player and as well as the spectators, we just gotta admit that boring parts of Puff to get into the exciting one. And about Puff herself being bad for Melee, I can't agree, because she's pushing all the other cool characters to be better. Like Hungrybox beating Armada is a very good thing for Armada, And I think that just works for everyone. And the fact that foxes are very good is very good for puffs as well. So, just the competition.
Yeah, few would argue that the same person winning every single tournament is what causes things to become stale. I mean, there were people out there. I remember back in the days of Call of Duty when Team Impact was winning everything. Everybody went from being an Impact fan to anti-Impact, rooting for whatever team played them, because nobody likes to see somebody win that many championships in a row. Even if winning all of them is certainly fun for the people who are taking the championships. Absolutely. All right, moving on to our next question. This one comes from Potato Lunar. Love the names this week, guys. Keep them up. Potato Lunar wants to know, how did it feel to not be able to participate at Genesis? Also, where do you feel France stands in the European scene? 4th best, 5th best, etc.
Okay, Genesis. Let's talk about Genesis. So I have to say this was possibly one of the worst experiences of my life, which is either to say that I haven't had a very exciting life, or that Genesis was very, very, very bad. And I'll just go with very bad, if you will. So basically, Genesis was my dream tournament, because like the first tournament I ever watched was Genesis 1, and then Genesis 2 was big for me as a spectator too, because my mother won it, etc. So yeah, Genesis 3 was the perfect setup, and I came 1 week early to warm up and to have this dream week in Cali, like everything I've dreamt about for like 3 years as a smasher, honestly. So I arrived, it was cool for like 2 days, and then it was crap. And from then on, I barely remember anything, because I felt sick. Like it was the worst sickness I had for like 3 years or something. I don't know. I just couldn't get up. I had these massive, I don't know what you call it in English, really. Well, anyway, I was
Diarrhea?
Nah, I mean, I was really, really dizzy all the time. Basically, I could barely stand up. I tried to go to the tournament. I stayed 5 minutes, then I fled all the way to the nearest hotel room to sleep all day, because I was just that bad. And so, yeah, it was especially bad because the community brought me there, and I felt an awful lot guilty about that, and just. So that's how I felt about this experience. Just
was that your first major sickness away from home as well?
yeah. That as well. Like it was just the perfect timing, really. 'Cause everything felt right into place to be the worst possible experience. It just felt like the perfect teaser to what an American experience would actually feel like. It was just a teaser, so I don't know. I'll see next time how it is.
I have encouraging news for you. Based on the six-figure streaming numbers from this year, I would bet there's going to be a Genesis 4. So you will get your chance again. That wasn't the last one.
That would be amazing, yeah. I'll do everything to attend, of course.
Yeah, and I think just about every one of our viewers would like to attend Genesis 4 as well, and we hope to see you there. Moving on to our next question. Hold on. We missed part of that question. Yeah. It was where does France rank in the European country power rankings?
Yeah, that one too is pretty complex to answer. So basically, in cruise, if you make cruise between all the European countries, it will depend on how many players is going to be in each cruise. If it's only 3 players, so Sweden basically wins every time. Let's just say Sweden is the best and get that sorted out. Mm-hmm. But like a 3 players crew, I mean, the rest of Europe basically is Sweden is on the top, and the rest of Europe is fighting for the rest. You know, it's really, really tight. Every time like a French player meets a Dutch player or anything like that, you can never really know the outcome. So it's really hard to rank France in the midst of Europe. Let's just say that Ice and Left and Armada are above it all, and we're just in the pond, you know, fighting for our lives. That's how I see it. Really.
Well, and Tekk, of course.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Well, we definitely. Tekk OP, obviously. And we look forward to seeing what else can come out of the European scene. It feels like, and you know what? Let me ask that as well, because it feels right now, based on the success of Armada and Leffen and Ice, and then of course you taking sets off at Duck. Based on a number of things, really, Europe is sort of joining the fray in a way that was never possible before, obviously, because we all love this game that didn't have any internet play, and that made things very difficult. What do you see for the future of European Smash? Because it seems like things are as strong as they've ever been, and there seem to be more people joining the fold every time we turn around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the scenes everywhere are exploding. Now we actually see Americans coming to Europe for tournaments, which is amazing, and we're gonna see more of that, I guess, like for DreamHack and whatnot. And I think Europe has been stepping it up as well. I think of Ice and Professor Pro especially. Professor Pro barely didn't break into top 8 last time he was in the US. I think it was pound. He did 9, something like that. So yeah, we Europeans, I think, really want to be good competition for the US from now on, and that's all we're thinking about, really, like going to America or have Americans come here, because the only way you can really exist in the scene is like to interact with an American, basically. So that's how I say it, and that's how a lot of Europeans say it. We want our scenes to grow, and they're growing. Like as I just said earlier, like, scenes are exploding everywhere, but I mean exploding compared to like 3 years earlier. So I think the future is honestly looking very bright for Europe and for Smash as a whole, anyway. So.
That's awesome. Well, let's hope that moving forward into the future, we get some sort of professional organization or something out there to help bolster you guys. And obviously, more sponsorship dollars would not hurt in the slightest. I think we can all agree. Moving on to our next question. If you're listening out there, we've got an extremely talented French player who plays Jigglypuff on our stream right now. Wink, wink, Cloud9. Moving on to our next question. This one comes to us from Joshua W. Joshua W. wants to know, which version of Melee do you think has the best Rondudu voice actor?
This one is easy. The top 4, the absolute and unapologetic top 4 is first one French, because she's got the most soul, the most personality. That's the one you're gonna remember the most when you sleep and everything. She's the absolute best. Like Rondudu is above it all, no question, absolutely no question. Second one is the German one, Pomerloff. Pomerloff is pretty funny. I have to say she's pretty effective. She's pretty original. Like the voice is very different from the other puffs, and I think that's a lot of detail already on puff voices. The third one would be, I think the third and fourth one would be the Japanese and the American ones, because to me they just sound like, regular puff sounds that no one is gonna remember. I don't know, they're just boring to me compared to Ron to do that is.
I need to hear these samples because I'm not acquainted with the French version of Rondu.
Just watch any one of my matches, man. You'll hear some good Rondu.
Is that... Wait, you have a different voice actor for your Is it because you're on PAL? I don't understand.
Yeah, because like some sets I play, I turn the game into French. If it's PAL. Gotta get that home advantage, yeah.
Ready? Commence. I dig it. Did anybody else in Europe do that?
In French. Sorry?
Does anybody else in Europe do that? Do you ever find yourself listening to the count or listening to the startup or the credits or whatever in Spanish?
You might. It depends on who you're playing, really. We're pretty we're jesters here. We're joyful.
I love it. Moving on to our next question. This one comes to us from Crescentium. Crescentium, welcome to the show. Crescentium wants to know, who are some of your favorite players to play against and why? Also, assuming that you're still planning on streaming one day, do you think that having a sponsor will make that goal easier to achieve for you?
Very good question. So I absolutely, at the moment, love playing Maillet, if you guys know him. And you should. He's this very good Morph player in France. He's a very good training partner. He's got a really good outlook on the game. He's got this very, very solid Morph who has 4-stocked Batman, if you mind you, I mean. He's probably my favorite player to play against at the moment. I love playing with Willy as well, which is one of the guys that taught me Melee, really solid Falco. Really good outlook on the game, really good critic as well. Helps me a lot to focus and be square in my game, So basically I love to play with the guys that really help me bring up my game in a very serious way,
Yeah, it sounds like a big focus for you when finding practice partners is just people that are going to elevate you, especially as you make your quest, as you said, to start winning lands in a boring way.
Exactly. I gotta learn the rules before I break them. That's my motto from now on.
I love it. I love it.
And about
Oh yeah,
streaming,
I
yeah.
forgot about the other one. Go ahead.
So yes, streaming. That is actually one of the goals of my partnership with SDS. They are going to provide me with some recording stuff, and then I'm gonna start streaming, and then eventually we're going to produce some content. I have some ideas I've written down today. So yeah, this year we'll be focused on training the neutral game and producing content and streaming. So you can expect you guys to hear a lot more from me this year.
No, I'd love to stay on this topic for a second because it feels like part of the problem with fans who want to enjoy European Melee and want to appreciate what you guys are doing nowadays is exposure. Beside the fact that the game can't be played online, it seems like the European Smash community is a little bit behind in terms of getting your work out there, getting your names out there. You know, we see them in the top 8s, but we'd only see them at that time. So what do you think Europe has to do? What tips can you give to your fellow European Melee players to help get them out in the world so that when people show up at Genesis 4, they're rooting for their favorite Spanish player or their favorite French player?
Okay, that is a very good question actually, because indeed we Europeans are lazy about communicating and getting our name out there. Thinking about over Trifles, Professor Pro, Ice, and myself. I'm not very active on social media. Because we're shy, basically. You know, we don't want to be. It's Europe. I don't know what to say. We're weird. We're weird like that. But yeah, I think the most basic thing to change that would be to just tweet more, because the Smash scene is so active on it. So just tweet more about the tournaments you're going to. Try to get them out there as well. Get some streams out there. If you try to stream more, that's just generic advice. The very basic stuff, really. But we don't even get that sorted. So. And that's my goal too this year, to be a more recognizable face in the scene, to entertain people, of course. That's one of my big goals this year. I have some very good ideas for you guys and for Puff players. I want to do some things for Puff players. And I think, Ice even has like an account made for him by other people because he wasn't winning. Mm-hmm. So that's how bad it got. So at least Ice got that sorted for him, I guess. So he needed to worry about that.
We took care of one, but there's probably hundreds of others out there that could also use their own Twitter accounts.
That's true. So yeah, I think the Europeans just gotta get on Twitter more, as for starters, and stream more as well, obviously.
There you go. It's that simple. And by the way, while we're talking about exposure, take a second for those of us who are the Americans sort of living in the dark of the European scene and tell us who are the players that we don't immediately recognize in Europe that we should be on the lookout for in 2016.
Okay, first name that comes to mind right now is probably Trifacia. He's now the best player in Spain. He's over Triforce is now second. He's this very, very solid pitch player that came very close to beating Lucky at to the throne in winner semis. He's really a hidden boss for the moment. Like no one in America knows him, but if he goes to America, he's gonna take names for sure. So people need to be wary about him. I think Prof is a bit underrated too at the moment because he's had some underwhelming performances, but as a whole, he's still a very strong and solid player. And so, if you play as climbers, you're gonna lose to him. That's for sure. So stuff like that. We got some really, really some matchup specialists and skills.
You're referring to Professor Pro, I assume.
Yeah, sure.
Gotcha.
And also, I'm thinking also of Doimling, this ice climbers player from Germany. He's this just solid, all-around solid, wobbling ice climbers. So who loves that, So be prepared for him too if you ever cross his road. He's gotten to. He's won a few tournaments in Dutch and beating all the top Dutch players, as Geto, Amsa, Adam, whoever. I think people have kind of forgotten Basguero too. He used to be like the best fox in Europe, and I think he's still a very, very strong player, very, very smart player. Kind of the same way Hamza is a smart player, you know. Um, I think that's a good starter. Like
That's
those,
certainly, yeah. That's a good starter pack. The European
yeah,
overlooked players starter pack. I
yeah.
love
If
it.
if I might just add one French player
Please.
for my pleasure, Cyr. I think not enough people know about Cyr, and that's absolutely his own fault. I'm blaming him. I'm blaming him so hard for that. He's an amazing Samus player. If I have this much experience against Samus, it's because we have Foster and Cyr in France. And yeah, he's gonna destroy any Falco that comes his way.
We
Basically.
really need to hook him up with Duck, Esam, and Hugs, who have
Oh
all been
yes.
pushing really hard to make Samus a part of the meta. And as far as I can tell, they're starting to really succeed. So it's sort of an exciting development.
Yes, and I think that will eventually happen the more people travel all around the world. And I think that's just what's gonna happen next in the Smash scene. People are just gonna travel wherever because they're gonna have sponsor, and there's gonna be these huge tournaments everywhere.
Alternative idea: bring everybody to a giant station or a giant stadium with beer, and let's do it. Let's make it happen. That's just my 2 cents on it, though. Moving on to our next question. This one comes from I'm in line. I'm in line wants to know: are you the second best Jigs? Why? Do you think you know how Hungrybox can improve, and what are his strengths and weaknesses? So let's start off with: are you the second best Jigglypuff, and why?
First of all, second of all, I don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't know if you can tell really because, well, I didn't enter any American tournaments and Prince Abu didn't enter any European ones. So we don't know how we compare, but he's definitely got more experience versus good foxes that I do. So I guess he's got an overall better tournament chance than I do in any given tournament in America. But I still think I've got a lot more technology in some matchups than he does. He knows so too, and there's no problem with that. So am I the second best Jigs? Who cares, you know? I just want to be the best. So
yeah. So who cares whether you're second best? You're not the best, so you want to get there, is what I'm hearing. By the way, I'm not saying you're not the best. I'm just saying that's your mentality. Please stay on the show.
I'm having a good time anyway.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
So about Hungrybox improving, I don't know how we can improve his overall game plan because he's got a very solid one. So I'm not going to comment on that. What I think is his main weakness, like the thing I would like to see him do more, is go for these crazy rests because there are an awful lot of opportunities he could create that he doesn't. And sometimes I'm a bit disappointed in the options he chooses because it's like the safer one and the less hype, you know. But that's really my only objection I would have to say about his playstyle because he wins big tournaments. So what do I have to say? His strengths are I think very obvious. He's very, very hard to read, very hard to hit. He's hitting himself very, very, very hard with buff. Basically the hardest you can in any given situation. So I think he's just an overall all-around very strong player. And there's nothing more I can add, I think.
Now, on the subject of Prince Abu, people at Smash Summit 2 were talking about how part of the reason that Armada was able to beat Hungrybox, even though Hungrybox came through the winner's bracket, was that Prince Abu was coaching them. Prince Abu was giving them the tips. And as a Jigglypuff player, as a person who also wants to win tournaments, how do you feel about one of your fellow Jigglypuff brothers sort of selling you down the river and telling foxes how to beat you?
I absolutely love that. I mean... it's part of a bigger plan. You have to see the bigger picture. It's not about helping the foxes beat Hungrybox. It's about taking down Hungrybox as a whole and replacing him. You know, it's the ultimate Puff plan, the Young Puff Squad plan. You know, so yeah, I have no problem with that because, as I said, as foxes get better to the matchup, we will too. So there's no problem, and that's Abu's will too, to sell off Hungrybox's secrets to the to the top boxes, and that means he's gonna push Hungrybox harder too. So I think what Abu is doing is very positive, and he himself is getting a lot from it, a lot of top player experience. And I think the whole Abu is selling melee joke is, I think it's only half funny, because he's going to get so good, man. He's going to get so good, and what's gonna happen then? It's gonna happen. Abu versus Hungrybox Grand Finals.
So that's the irony here, isn't it? Is because ironically, he's helping Foxes beat Hungrybox now, but he's building himself up. And so then where is the hero of Melee going to be when it's an all Jigglypuff final?
And I think it's just going to be 20XX versus 666XX fighting for the throne.
That is actually a perfect segue into our next question, which is, what are your opinions? This one coming from Candeo on 666XX.
Well, first of all, it's a very corny name, I think. It's meh. It's very meh.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, does it? It's a little cumbersome to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's made to be annoying, like Perf is perceived to be, probably. So yeah, my opinion on that is, I don't know, man. I think if Habu gets very, very, very good, as he probably will, if I get to travel as much as I want, if other perfs step it up, it might happen. It might happen. We might see more perf dealers in the future, at least. I think we can expect that.
Imagine the reaction at Evo when two Jigglypuffs face up in the final.
Yeah, just riot. People will riot, I think. Yep. But it's always going to push the Foxes, so I don't really believe in it. It's just funny to think about it.
That's actually an interesting mentality, and one that I hear is a sort of common thread as you talk about Prince Abu and about 666XX. And it's just the idea that, in a lot of other esports, we talk about how if something is wrong, we need a developer to fix it, or we need a counter to it. We need a fix. But yeah, exactly. And what you guys are talking about is a lot more about, we'll learn, we'll get better, everyone will get better, and that's how progress happens. That's just really interesting to me.
Yeah, that just is, it's just the virtual cycle of competition, if you will. It's the perspective you have to have on the game if you want to stop being frustrated with everything bad that happens to you, because you're gonna lose eventually, because other people are smarter as you are, trying twice as hard as you are. Defeat is going to happen eventually. People are going to get better. That means you're going to get better, and that's just how you gotta say it. Every tournament only counts until the next one, and there's always a next one, and that's worse for the winner than it is for the loser in the end.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, competition keeps going. It's like I always talk about in my favorite sports. Even if you are the best team in the world and you win the world championship, you got to do it again next year. And so I like I just like the mentality that people have to, as a wise man once said, get good.
Yeah, I think being the best is kind of a curse, really. What everyone is fighting for is not something to be desired that hard, in the end. But I'm just getting ready.
Well, not to mention, if you are the best player in the world, you're going to get everybody's best shot. I mean, I'm sure that Armada gets the best look from everybody that he plays, and that can't be easy.
Yeah. People are coming for his blood every time, every match, every single free play match he plays. People are coming for every single stock, just so they can say, "Yeah, I only got 3 stocks by Armada."
A great honor indeed. Well, we don't have a ton of time left, so I'm going to try to get through a few more of these questions with your permission. The next one coming up is the one that you were excited about, and that's from Rezraya. Rezraya wants to know: fuck, marry, kill Prince Abu, Hungrybox, and Hacks Money.
Okay. So first of all, because there's no question about it, I would fuck Hacks Money, because who wouldn't, It's just just obvious. I'm just going with the community response here. Second one would be I would marry Hungry Box, but I would be like kind of a very PC trophy wife to him because he's so rich and I'm so broke, and so I would just spend all of his money into shit he doesn't need, and then eventually I would divorce him so I could take half of his stuff, and then I would, well, you get the picture.
Yeah. And then
Anyway,
obviously, would you kill Prince Abu to become the official second best puff in the world?
Yeah, that's just being pragmatic, just being smart. So sorry, Abu, but gotta do it.
That's a sound strategic plan. If you want to become the best and you need to eliminate another puff in your way, that just makes sense. It's just business.
Yeah, I just need to use all the best moves I can. So
that was everything I hoped for and more. So thank you for that. Our next question comes from Yehu10. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not. I do my best. I swear I do. Yehu10 wants to know, what do you think is going to be the future puff meta?
very tough question because in the end, I want to be the future puff meta. So I think the future of puff is going to be about having a very perfect neutral game, being very safe all the time, and then when you get the momentum, when you get a punish, then going all crazy, because Puff has some really hidden aggressive technology with edge cancels, with some fun stuff with the rest. So I think as long as she gets the momentum, she can really go for amazing stuff that no one is going to expect. And other than that, she's going to have to be a brick wall all the time, except when she gets the edge. Mm-hmm. That's just how I imagine it. We'll just see how it turns out.
I think we've seen moments in Hungry Box's career in particular, and I bring him up only because he is sort of criticized for playing a defensive Puff sometimes, where we have seen sort of the rush down version of Puff. It's very aggressive, it's very in your face, and it doesn't give you much room to breathe. It also seems a little bit risky, and especially against Fox, who could punish it easily and take a stock for being overly aggressive. I imagine that is a bit of a gamble playing that way. So what's going to be the incentive for Puff players to start being more aggressive? Because at this point, the wait, grab, and rest seems to be a pretty good system, at least for a couple of players.
Because there's the clutch factor. And I think that's a thing... Sorry, let me just get my thought for a second. I just think that Puff has so many ways of creating situation where the opponent is just going to panic and go for the dumb option you condition them to go for. And that can be, the hidden ace at the end of the game. That's kind of the stuff I often go for. But I think to have the wait for the opportunity ace in your pocket and I'm just going to get in your face and provoke a dumb action, if you can mix them up very well, you can basically destruct anyone,
Mm-hmm. So Puff really needs to have that other dimension to really bring his game to the next level, or her game.
Yeah, the mental pressure she has is something very powerful actually, and something you can really play with. You can really play with your opponent's mind, about how you're going to be either really boring and evasive or just plain in your face, rush down and just scary. Puff is scary when she has the momentum. So I think you've got to use that more.
Excellent. Well, let's hope for the sake of Evo crowds and the many people in the audience who booed Hungry Box for ledge camping last year that we see a few more of those aggressive tendencies. I mean, it was a smart move, but it certainly was not fun to watch. Moving on to our next question. This one comes from Mark of Destiny. See, this one I can actually read. Mark of Destiny wants to know, I remember Professor Pro getting asked a question like this, and I'd like to hear from you too. What are your thoughts on the state of the French Smash scene? What do you think should or will change?
So yeah, the French Smash scene, like the other European Smash scene, is exploding. Now there are Smash communities in areas where there used to be absolutely no one, and that's frankly amazing. We have like 3 or 4 different kind of weeklies in the country now in 4 different cities. That's amazing too. We have a lot of monthlies everywhere. People are grinding the game really hard. They're really interested in the game. They're watching a lot of stuff. They're really, they're working, and they're getting better. They're getting better, and I really appreciate that. And what I think should or will change, I think France is just going to be more open in your future towards foreign players, and French people are going to eventually travel more in groups because we don't do it so far that much. But like I would love to see just a pack of French people going to an American tournament in the future. That could happen because people are getting that much into the game. So yeah.
I know that the French government is also working on sort of recognizing esports in the country. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, I don't know a lot about that, to be honest. I just know they're going to officially recognize esport as an activity, and that means like that tournaments won't legally be classified as a gambling anymore.
I see.
That's the very basis of it. But from that, it's going to evolve into, I guess, a proper federation of the gaming associations. So honestly, I'm just waiting to see how it evolves. So far, I've yet to learn more about how it will exactly work.
It's definitely an exciting time to see what esports will become, especially with entire governments getting into the mix. That's when things get both exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking because you never know what could happen. All right. Our next question comes to us from Rondudu Batu, who wants to know, you are known to loathe HBox's playstyle. Who influenced you the most as a Puff player? Can you let us in on that joke a little bit? Because I assume Rondudu is Jigglypuff. What is Babtu?
Okay, Babtu is French for I don't know, white guy or basic white guy or white trash. So it just sounds really good, Rondudu Babtu, and it's really funny. And so it's a friend of mine that did a little joke there. So the question was about Fox players in Europe and in TSC Fox, right?
It was actually about who influenced you the most as a Puff player.
Oh yeah, sorry. So there are 2 main influences, maybe 3, I guess. Like the first one is actually not Mango, it's a player called Infernum, who lives in the south of France. That's still kind of active now. He basically told me the whole mentality of getting a rest out of nowhere, just getting in to get the rest, and getting rest on with hits and really tight frame stuff. He really taught me that. And the other one would be Mango and King, basically, for the really aggressive reads, the roll reads, for example. That is the first thing I ever learned with Puff, to roll someone to rest someone on a roll. My bad, because he did it to Armada. So that's the first thing I tried to copy from another Puff player. So yeah, basically Mango and that one guy Infernum from southern France.
And from there, you've really forged your own path with rests. I know we have some video of a couple crazy rests that you did on Duck, whereas Hungrybox sort of looks for the safe setup, looks for the right situation, tosses his opponent up, and then looks for the rest. You kind of just hopped up and rested him, and then as soon as he came back around, you basically just did it again. You just sort of threw it out there as a casual rest. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, thanks. That just you create these setups that basically only Puff players can see, and if you don't know about it in advance, you're going to get hit by the rest. So Puff has all of these crazy out of nowhere rest setups that I'm probably going to share more in the future with other Puff players.
Do you think that these are the kind of rest setups that you can actually pull against more experienced players? I mean, then again,
Of
you pulled them
course.
against Duck, so like that's no small potatoes.
Yeah, I did some things against Shroomed and then against Hugs in friendlies too. So and versus Axe too. So yeah, I'm confident in what I can bring to any player. Really.
Then come to America, dude. Come to America. You are welcome anytime. Flags are the same colors, warm weather. Well, it depends on where you go, I guess. But please come back sometime.
Yes.
We got time for probably a couple more questions. This next one is also from Rondoudou Batu, who wants to know, the French scene has historically been known for having many strong players, but none of them able to reach the top of Europe. What would be your explanation for that? Is there an upcoming player you think we should follow? I'm sorry, Rondoudou Batu, for stepping on your question a little bit.
All right. So yeah, France has always had a hard time getting actually good results in tournaments. Like we always have, a lot of strong players that will really bar any foreigners coming in, let's say. But we haven't had any real hero, that really brought home a huge major or something like that. And I think that's because French players haven't traveled enough, really, and they haven't had the best outlook on the game and the best mentality for some years, and that's what I'm working on really hard. Is there an upcoming player you think we should follow? I think Professor Pro is having Professor Pro and Ice are having really good mentality and ethic, and they're really good examples. And they are the examples I'm trying to follow. Just travel a lot, play as many players as you can, and try to have and try to construct a solid game from that. And that's just, I think, what everyone should be doing, like any type of Smasher, really.
So my final question for you for the evening is for players that in your position where they see that they have a local scene that's really strong, be it in Europe, in their country, or even in just an underappreciated area of the United States, what is the single most important thing you can do as an individual to help grow your scene?
To help grow your scene, yeah, just try really hard to find a place to organize weeklies. Yeah, if you have like a small community, you have to bring it together. You have to force them together basically on a regular basis, and that's how you're going to build a community, how people are going to get better, and how eventually you're going to be more attractive to other players too.
And who doesn't want to be more attractive?
Right.
Well, Tekk, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It's been an absolute blast. Before we
My
close
pleasure.
up for the night, do you have any shout-outs or anything you want to give before we go away for the evening?
Okay, a quick shout out to Rondoudou Baptou, who is Sloka, si tu me regardes. Then, yeah, just a shout out to Prince Abu for being the darkest puff player there is in the United States. Just shout outs to Shroomed, to the local players who housed me when I was there. They're just the coolest, and shout outs to Europe and to France. Vive la République. And I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, again, Tekk, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we cannot wait to see the crazy puff tech that you bring to future tournaments. I know we're all excited to see what's over the horizon.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Problem. Thank you so much. And for the rest of you in the audience, thank you so much for watching this evening. That's going to do it for us. If you liked the show and you want to catch more our SmashBros AMAs throughout the weeks, we've been doing several, and we appreciate everybody that tunes in every week. Please hit that follow button down below the Twitch window. It's down there somewhere. I gave up trying to figure out where it is in relation to your browser a long, long time ago. If you're feeling particularly generous, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate your support. Plus, you get access to the .fire and .fan emotes, which our technical director is hopefully spamming in chat as we speak. If you want to check out the VOD or share it with your friends, check it out over on youtube.com/daily.esports for Smash coverage and even more esports coverage. Just check us out over on facebook.com/daily.esports, and then of course over on Twitter @. Esports. That's going to do it for us tonight, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And before we go, I do have a special treat. I was saving this as a surprise for everybody. Next week's guest will be none other than the Samus player himself. Duck will be joining us on the show. Mind blown. Get your questions out there as soon as the thread is up. Please flood it with questions and vote on your favorites so we can make next week count and pick the brain of the waterfowl who plays Samus that we've all come to know and love. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, folks, and we will see you next time.